everybody, welcome to my channel.
Helen Hayes, the First Lady of American Theatre. Helen Hayes, October 10, 1900 to March 17, 1993, was an American actress whose extraordinary career spanned nearly 80 years, earning her the title, the First Lady of American Theatre. She remains one of only a handful of performers to have won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Award, EGOT, a testament to her remarkable versatility and enduring influence on stage and screen. Early life and career beginnings. Helen Hayes Brown was born in Washington, D.C., to Francis and Catherine Brown. Her mother, an actress of Irish descent, encouraged Helen's early interest in performing. By the age of 5, Hayes had made her stage debut, and by 10, she was appearing in repertory theater and silent films. She attended Dominican Academy and briefly studied at George Washington University, but acting was already her true vocation. In her teens, she was performing regularly on Broadway, quickly establishing herself as one of the most promising young actresses in New York. Rise to stardom on Broadway. Hayes achieved major recognition in the 1920s with her performances in plays like Coquette, 1927, and What Every Woman Knows, 1926. Her breakthrough came in 1931 when she starred in the Broadway production of Victoria Regina, portraying Queen Victoria, a role that became one of her career-defining performances. Her natural style, emotional depth, and ability to bring humanity to her characters made her one of the leading figures of American theater. Critics praised her for her subtlety and intelligence, a departure from the exaggerated style of early 20th century stage acting. Hollywood success. Though theater was her first love, Helen Hayes also found great success in Hollywood. She won her first Academy Award for The Sin of Maud Claudette, 1931, in which she played a mother who sacrifices everything for her child. Her second Oscar came over 3 decades later, for Airport, 1970, where she played a mischievous elderly stowaway. Between those two performances, she appeared in numerous acclaimed films, including A Farewell to Arms, 1932, and My Son John, 1952. Her ability to bring warmth and intelligence to her characters made her a beloved presence on screen as well as on stage. Personal life and legacy. In 1928, Hayes married playwright Charles MacArthur, with whom she had 2 children, including James MacArthur, who later became famous for his role on Hawaii Five-0. Their partnership was both romantic and artistic. Together they were part of New York's vibrant theater and literary scene during the 1930s and 1940s. Tragedy struck when her daughter Mary died of polio in 1949, and her husband passed away in 1956. Despite personal losses, Hayes continued to perform and contribute to the arts. Later years and honors. In her later years, Helen Hayes turned to television and public service. She appeared in numerous TV productions and remained a prominent advocate for theater and the arts. Her many honors include Presidential Medal of Freedom, 1986, Kennedy Center Honors, 1981, a theater on Broadway, the Helen Hayes Theater, named in her honor. Helen Hayes officially retired from acting in 1971 due to asthma, but continued to write memoirs and essays, sharing her insights on a lifetime spent in the theater. Death and enduring influence. Helen Hayes passed away on March 17, 1993, in Nyack, New York, at the age of 92. Her passing marked the end of an era in American theater, but her influence remains alive. Known for her grace, intelligence, and compassion, Helen Hayes helped shape the American stage and screen into the respected art forms they are today. Her long career, spanning from the silent film era to modern television, stands as a shining example of dedication and artistry. A deeper look at Helen Hayes' extraordinary career. Helen Hayes' career is not just a record of performances, it is the story of an artist who lived through and shaped the evolution of American entertainment. From vaudeville and silent films to television and the modern Broadway stage. The early stage years in the 1910s, when Helen Hayes began acting professionally. The American stage was dominated by melodrama and elaborate spectacle. Hayes, even as a teenager, brought a refreshing realism and emotional nuance that critics immediately noticed. She appeared in productions such as The Old Dutch and Bab, steadily gaining recognition for her delicate but commanding presence. Her versatility allowed her to shift effortlessly between comedy and tragedy. During her 20s, she began to perform alongside major stage stars of the era, including John Drew and Minnie Maddern-Fiske. Hayes' ability to hold her own in such company earned her respect among theater veterans and established her as a serious actress. Golden Age of Broadway. The 1920s and 1930s were the golden period of Helen Hayes' Broadway career. She starred in a string of acclaimed plays, including Coquette, 1927, a performance that earned her enormous critical praise and established her as a leading lady. What Every Woman Knows, 1926, a refined and intelligent portrayal that revealed her natural understanding of human emotion. Mary of Scotland, 1933, her portrayal of Mary, Queen of Scots, further solidified her reputation for playing strong, regal women. Victoria Regina, 1935 to 1938, perhaps her most iconic stage role, where she aged convincingly from a young queen to an elderly monarch over the course of the play. Her acting style was noted for its precision, warmth, and humanity, qualities that made her an ideal bridge between the old theatrical traditions and the modern psychological approach to performance. Hollywood career and the screen transition. When the sound era of cinema arrived, Helen Hayes was one of the few stage actresses who successfully transitioned to Hollywood. Her voice, gentle yet expressive, translated beautifully on film. Her first major Hollywood success was The Sin of Madeleine Claudette, 1931, which earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress. In this film, she played a self-sacrificing woman whose love for her child leads her into poverty and disgrace, a role that displayed her deep emotional range. She later appeared in A Farewell to Arms, 1932, opposite Gary Cooper, based on Ernest Hemingway's novel Vanessa, Her Love Story, 1935, a romantic drama. My Son John, 1952. A patriotic post-war film where she portrayed a conflicted mother. Her second Oscar, for Airport, 1970, came almost 40 years after her first, a rare achievement that demonstrated her enduring appeal. She delighted audiences as Ada Quonset, a mischievous elderly woman who repeatedly sneaks onto airplanes. The role introduced her to a new generation of moviegoers. Television and later work. In the 1950s and 1960s, Hayes embraced television, appearing in dramas and anthology series such as Hallmark Hall of Fame and Playhouse 90. Her TV appearances brought her several Emmy Awards, proving once again her adaptability across different mediums. She also recorded spoken word albums and audiobooks, earning a Grammy Award, another step toward her rare EGOT status. Writing and reflection. Beyond acting, Helen Hayes was a gifted writer. Her memoirs, A Gift of Joy, 1965, and On Reflection, 1968, reveal her wit, grace, and thoughtful approach to life. She wrote candidly about her struggles with illness, personal loss, and the demands of fame. Her words often reflected a quiet wisdom. The hardest years in life are those between 10 and 70. Hayes saw her career not just as personal success, but as a service to the craft of acting itself. Charity and public service. After losing her daughter Mary to polio, Hayes became deeply involved in charity work for health causes. She was active with the March of Dimes and various children's hospitals. Her compassion for others made her a respected public figure far beyond the stage. President Ronald Reagan, who had known her personally from their Hollywood days, awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1986, the highest civilian honor in the United States. Legacy and influence. Helen Hayes' impact on American theater cannot be overstated. The Helen Hayes Theater in New York was named in her honor in 1955, symbolizing her permanent place in Broadway history. Even today, the Helen Hayes Awards, presented annually in Washington, D.C., celebrate excellence in theater, continuing her legacy of artistry and professionalism. Her longevity, grace, and devotion to her craft made her an inspiration to generations of actors, including Katharine Hepburn, Julie Harris, and Meryl Streep. Death and remembrance. Helen Hayes passed away peacefully on March 17, 1993, at the age of 92, in Nyack, New York, the same home she had shared with her husband Charles MacArthur. Her passing marked the end of an era in American performing arts. She once said, "My mother drew a distinction between achievement and success. She said that achievement is the knowledge that you have studied and worked hard and done the best that is in you. Success is being praised by others. That is nice, but not as important or satisfying. Always aim for achievement and forget about success." Those words summarize not only her philosophy of life but the integrity with which she approached her art. Helen Hayes, A Lifetime of Achievement and Artistry, expanded biography. Helen Hayes was not only an actress, she was an institution. Her life stretched across the entire 20th century of American performance, witnessing the transformation of theater from gaslight to electric, of film from silent reels to sound and color, and of television from its experimental infancy to a dominant art form. Her story is that of an artist who never stopped learning, who faced triumphs and tragedies with equal poise, and who remained devoted to the beauty and discipline of acting until her final years. The making of a child star born Helen Hayes Brown in Washington, D.C., on October 10, 1900. She grew up in a household that valued performance and creativity. Her mother, Catherine Estelle Hayes, was an aspiring actress, while her father, Francis Van Arnhem Brown, worked as a traveling salesman. From the beginning, Helen was a performer. At age 5, she appeared in a local production of The Prince Chap, and by age 9, she was acting professionally with stock companies. Her early exposure to both stagecraft and touring life gave her a strong sense of discipline, something she later credited for her lifelong success. She attended Dominican Academy and briefly studied at George Washington University, but by then, her destiny was clear. Broadway was calling. Broadway stardom and defining roles. Hayes' early years on Broadway were filled with minor parts, but by the 1920s, she had become one of the most respected young actresses in New York. Her 1927 role in Coquette showcased her ability to combine fragility and strength, a hallmark of her acting style. Critics began referring to her as the finest actress of her generation. However, her most legendary role was yet to come. In 1935, Hayes was cast as Queen Victoria in Victoria Regina, written by Lawrence Houseman. Over the play's run, she portrayed the Queen from age 18 to 80. A monumental acting feat that demanded subtle transitions in voice, posture, and demeanor. The performance became a landmark in theatrical history. As one critic wrote, "Helen Hayes does not act Queen Victoria, she becomes her." During this period, Hayes became synonymous with excellence in theater, earning the nickname that would follow her forever. The First Lady of the American Theater. Hollywood career and dual success while Broadway was her kingdom. Helen Hayes also made a graceful transition to film at a time when many stage actors struggled with the shift to sound cinema. Her film debut came in 1931 with The Sin of Madeleine Claudette, produced by MGM. Her portrayal of a devoted mother enduring hardship earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress, her first Oscar and proof that her dramatic power could transcend the stage. Other important films include A Farewell to Arms, 1932, a poignant adaptation of Hemingway's novel, where she starred opposite Gary Cooper. Vanessa, Her Love Story, 1935, a romantic drama that demonstrated her delicate emotional range. My Son John, 1952, a patriotic film in which she portrayed a mother torn between love and fear for her son's political choices. Airport, 1970, her return to film after a long absence, where her humorous and touching performance as Ada Quonset earned her a second Academy Award, this time for Best Supporting Actress. Hayes' 2 Oscars, awarded nearly 4 decades apart, symbolized her rare ability to adapt and excel across eras. Television, radio, and the EGOT legacy. Helen Hayes didn't stop at film and theater. She was also a pioneer in television and radio, mediums that allowed her to reach millions of homes. She appeared in beloved TV productions such as Hallmark Hall of Fame Playhouse 90, The Snoop Sisters, 1972–1974, a lighthearted mystery series in which she played one of 2 elderly crime-solving sisters. Her performances on television earned her Emmy Awards, and she also received a Grammy Award for her spoken word recordings. With those wins, she joined the rare and prestigious EGOT circle, artists who have won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Award. Her Tony Awards celebrated her legendary stage performances, especially her portrayals of historical and literary women of depth and dignity. Marriage, family, and personal loss. In 1928, Helen Hayes married Charles MacArthur, the celebrated playwright and journalist, best known for co-writing The Front Page. Their marriage was a partnership of intellect, humor, and creative energy. The couple lived in Nyack, New York, where they entertained many of the era's greatest artists, including Robert Benchley, Dorothy Parker, and Harpo Marx, all part of the Algonquin Round Table Circle. Together, they had 2 children, Mary MacArthur, who tragically died of polio in 1949 at age 19. James MacArthur, who became a successful actor, best known for playing Dano on Hawaii Five-0. The death of her daughter deeply affected Helen Hayes and led her to withdraw temporarily from acting. She later turned her grief into advocacy, becoming a leading supporter of polio research and children's health care. Her husband, Charles MacArthur, passed away in 1956. Despite her losses, Hayes continued to find meaning in her work, faith, and charity. Later life and philanthropy. In her later years, Helen Hayes used her fame to support the arts and humanitarian causes. She served on arts councils, gave lectures, and mentored young actors. She wrote several books, including A Gift of Joy, 1965, On Reflection, 1968, My Life in 3 Acts, 1990. Co-written with Catherine Hatch, her memoirs revealed her humility, her sense of humor, and her deep respect for the discipline of acting. She was honored with the Kennedy Center Honors, 1981, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, 1986, from President Ronald Reagan, who called her a national treasure. The Helen Hayes Theater and awards. Her name continues to shine on Broadway through the Helen Hayes Theater, first dedicated to her in 1955. After a rebuild, the name was transferred to another theater in 1983, ensuring her legacy endures in the very heart of American theater. In Washington, D.C., the Helen Hayes Awards, founded in 1983, recognize outstanding performances in regional theater. This living tribute keeps her spirit alive each year, honoring the very craft she devoted her life to. Final years and passing. Even after her retirement from acting in 1971 due to asthma, Helen Hayes remained an active public figure. She continued to write, speak, and advocate for the arts until her final years. Helen Hayes died peacefully at her home in Nyack, New York, on March 17, 1993, aged 92. Her funeral, held at St. John the Baptist Roman Catholic Church, was attended by family, friends, and admirers from across the arts world. She was laid to rest beside her beloved husband and daughter. Legacy. Helen Hayes's life represents the ideal of artistic excellence. She was the bridge between eras, between the melodramatic theater of the 19th century and the naturalistic drama of the modern age. Her ability to make every word, gesture, and silence meaningful has influenced generations of performers. Actresses such as Meryl Streep, Julie Harris, and Glenn Close have cited Hayes as an inspiration for their craft. Her name still evokes elegance, dedication, and authenticity, qualities that defined not only her performances but her life. Helen Hayes, The Complete Life of America's First Lady of Theater, Final Expanded Biography. Helen Hayes's life was a symphony of art, discipline, compassion, and endurance. Over 8 decades, she became one of the most respected figures in American culture, a woman who transcended the limitations of time, medium, and fashion to remain eternally relevant. Childhood and early aspirations. 1900 to 1918. Helen Hayes Brown was born on October 10, 1900, in Washington, D.C., to Frances Van Arnhem Brown and Catherine Estelle Hayes. Her mother, a stage performer, introduced young Helen to the theater early, taking her backstage and encouraging her love of performance. At just 5 years old, she appeared on stage in The Prince Chap. Her delicate features, clear diction, and precocious intelligence immediately attracted attention. By her early teens, she was performing regularly with stock companies and had already earned her first film credit in the 1917 silent short The Weavers of Life. By 1918, Helen was a full-time professional actress, performing in plays such as Peg O' My Heart and Bab. She quickly became known for her balance of youthful sweetness and emotional intelligence, qualities that would remain her trademarks. Establishing a Broadway reputation. 1919 to 1929. The post-World War I era was a golden age for theater, and Hayes became one of its brightest stars. Her early successes in the 1920s included We Moderns 1924, a witty modern comedy that highlighted her natural charm. Coquette 1927, the play that made her a household name and earned her a reputation as a leading lady of great emotional range. What Every Woman Knows 1926, a sophisticated performance that cemented her as an actress of intellect and poise. Critics praised her ability to convey deep emotion through restraint rather than exaggeration, a subtle, modern approach that set her apart from her contemporaries. During this period, she met playwright Charles MacArthur, whose charm and wit matched her own. The two married in 1928, forming one of Broadway's most celebrated artistic partnerships. Hollywood stardom and the first Academy Award. 1930s. Helen Hayes entered Hollywood at a time when sound films were transforming the industry. Unlike many stage actors, she adapted seamlessly. Her film debut, The Sin of Madeline Claudette, 1931, brought her instant acclaim. Her portrayal of a mother's devotion and suffering was raw and heartfelt, earning her the Academy Award for Best Actress. Other notable films from this era included A Farewell to Arms, 1932, with Gary Cooper. What Every Woman Knows, 1934, a reprise of her beloved stage role Vanessa, her love story, 1935. Yet, despite her cinematic success, Hayes's true devotion remained to the stage. She often returned to Broadway, performing in plays such as Mary of Scotland, 1933, and Victoria Regina, 1935 to 1938, the latter of which became one of the defining performances of her entire career. In Victoria Regina, she portrayed Queen Victoria's entire lifespan, from youth to widowhood. Her transformation, subtle, regal, and deeply human, stunned audiences. The role became synonymous with her name. A queen of the stage and a mother of two. 1940s. The 1940s brought both professional triumph and personal tragedy. Helen and Charles MacArthur had two children, Mary, born in 1930, and James, adopted in 1937. Helen adored her family, and she and Charles entertained many of New York's literary elite, Dorothy Parker, Robert Benchley, and the Algonquin Round Table crowd were frequent guests at their Nyack home. However, in 1949, their daughter Mary died of polio at age 19. The loss devastated Helen, who temporarily withdrew from acting and turned her grief into advocacy for polio research and children's health. She became one of the early public figures to campaign for vaccination awareness. Despite her sorrow, she returned to the stage with renewed depth, bringing greater emotional weight to her performances. Later film work and renewed acclaim, 1950s to 1970s. In the 1950s, Helen Hayes continued to perform on both stage and screen. Her notable films during this era include My Son John, 1952, a patriotic drama exploring family and political tension; Anastasia, 1956, stage revival, where she played the Dowager Empress with regal compassion. Her beloved husband, Charles MacArthur, passed away in 19.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.